Hi. Well, as you can see inside we have some paperwork and the repeater itself, that's it. The repeater with its two external antennas looks rather interesting. There is a WPS button, a signal LED light and a power LED light here, a 100 megabits per second Ethernet port and a reset button here. Now let's set it up and connect it to the wireless router. First off, I'm gonna plug it into a power outlet which is close to my wireless router. Also, I should point out that the primary wireless router doesn't have to be TP-Link. It can be actually any other brand, and as long as it has a 2.4 GHz wireless network, it should work fine. There are three different methods that I can use to set up the repeater and connect it to the wireless router. Number one, which is the easiest, is actually by using WPS. Basically, first I press the WPS button on the router, and then within 2 minutes I also press the WPS button on the repeater. Now the signal LED light should change from blinking to solid, showing me that it is successfully connected. This way the repeater's Wi-Fi name would be the primary router's Wi-Fi name plus _ext at the end. The password is going to be exactly the same though. Now I can relocate the repeater and put it in the right place. Method number two is by using a mobile device and also the TP-Link Tether app. Method number three is by using a computer and a browser, which is actually what I personally prefer, and I'm going to show this method as well. So the repeater is plugged in close to my wireless router. Now on my laptop, I'm going to connect to the repeater's default wireless network, which is TP-Link Extender. Now I can open a browser and type in the default IP address of the repeater. After choosing a password for the repeater's user interface, I'm gonna find the wireless network of the wireless router here and then enter its password so the repeater can actually connect to it. Next, I will choose a name for the repeater's wireless network, and unlike in method 1, I can actually change it from the default one to something else, which I'm gonna do it. But as far as the password, unfortunately I cannot change it and it automatically copies the wireless router's password. Okay, so I'm pretty much done at this point. I just need to relocate the repeater and put it in its right place. It is now broadcasting the new SSID, new wireless network, and I'm gonna connect to it. I just need to keep in mind that it is very much likely that the repeater has now received a new IP address from the wireless router, especially if they're on different subnets, which in my case they are, and this is the new IP address. So in order to log into the user interface of the repeater, I should use the new IP address, and if I don't know what it is, I can use this URL as well. One of the first things I would do when I log into the repeater, of course after making sure the internet is connected, also the repeater is connected to the wireless router with no problem, is to give a static IP address to the repeater. This way the IP address is not gonna change from time to time and I know exactly what it is. For example, I'm gonna give it this IP address. So the repeater is installed and I've been using it for a couple of days now, but just a few points that I haven't talked about yet. Number one, the 100 megabits per second Ethernet port, which I can use it to connect a wired client, maybe a desktop computer to the network, which is good. But I can also use it to connect the repeater with an Ethernet cable to the wireless router. And if you remember, in that case, this is no longer a repeater, and in fact, it is an access point. So that basically means I can change its operation mode and use it as an access point too, which is good. Number two, the repeater also has a DHCP server which can provide IP addresses for the clients. But it doesn't make any sense to enable it, change the coverage level of the repeater, which I guess is changing the transmit power, which is good to know and might come in handy one day. I also did a little bit of testing, nothing too crazy. I actually compared the speed and signal strength of the TP-Link repeater with an ASUS AC68U in repeater mode, and while connected to the primary router using the 2.4 GHz network, also rebroadcasting the 2.4 GHz network. And if you follow my channel, you probably know how much I actually like this very ASUS wireless router, so it's gonna be interesting. But just keep in mind that the results are gonna be based on my environment here, and it doesn't mean that everybody should get the same numbers. I'm actually gonna use iPerf to test the speed between two laptops, one connected with a cable to the primary router and one connected to the wireless network of the repeater. Then I'm gonna repeat the test while both laptops are connected using Ethernet cables. iPerf is actually a very good tool for measuring the performance of the network. I actually have a whole video on that, and I'll put the link to that video here, also in the video description, and feel free to check it out if you're interested. And here is actually what I got. So as you can see, I got more or less the same results for both of them. Around 30 megabits per second when one of the laptops was connected wirelessly, and around 90 megabits per second when both of them were connected with cables. I also checked the RSSI of both of them in 3 different places of my house. Well, as you can see, the RSSI was a little stronger for the ASUS in every single place. Not too much though. Alright, so I guess that was it. But